Last week we left off with Guardians of the Galaxy number 52, which ended with Kukulkan and Vance Astro on the prison planet Stockade, on the run and trying to free Charlie, while Drax the Destroyer was sent after them by the Warden. And that leads to what can in no hyperbole be billed as the Battle of the Year, Kukulkan, the Irish Hercules versus Drax the Destroyer, back when he had a purple cape. Yeah, 1994 may have been a slow year if this is the Battle of the Year. But by God, it's a slobber knocker between these two and Vance, while Vance sneaks away. Basically, this whole thing just amounts to Charlie getting rescued and showing the Warden a video that it had to be a clone that blew up the bomb, since it doesn't have Charlie's scars. So with Charlie back, Kukulkan heads off, but not before getting a special Yellow Jacket send-off, which I like to think is an old-fashioned in the hallway outside the bridge. The Guardians then discover that the clone, named Ripjack, came from the quarantined Mars. Next issue, we discover that Mars has been quarantined for over 1,000 years, ever since that whole tripod attack. You know, the one that really split Earth 691's history from the proper 616 continuity. While the Icarus is heading to Mars, we get Yondu and Vance having a heart-to-heart about how Vance has kind of been acting a bit more volatile lately, ever since having the black suit, and Yondu's been a bit of a dick because of having a crisis of faith, since the Centauri god Anthos may in fact be Thanos. But that gets interrupted by the Mars quarantine units, Sentinels. It's good to see the Sentinels haven't changed in over 1,000 years. The Icarus blasts the Sentinels fairly easy, and everyone beams down to the planet's surface. Oddly enough, they beamed perfectly to be in front of a war museum, and we get some decent history of the war, seeing some of those who fell, including the oddly touching moment where Vance goes to take Cap's cowl out of a display, and it disintegrates before he can touch it. It's only a couple panels, but it really does hammer home how much Major Victory has moved away from his Captain Americlone days. We also get to see that Spider-Man was the last to fall, and someone had removed his body from a sarcophagus for plague immunization, whatever that means. Talon and Vance also have another pissing contest, so the team splits up. And that's when we get some minor muttering from Ripjack, who, okay, I'm sorry Taserface for making that 90s joke way back when. This storyline came out in 1994, when things stopped being over-the-top hilarious, and just muddled into that generic kind of sad over-the-top. So let's go into issue 55 and see just how badass, I use air quotes there, Ripjack, the intergalactic serial killer, is trying to be. Well, he wipes the floor with Talon, Alita, and Yondu, even taking the light from Alita. The rest of the team beams in, and we get Ripjack's backstory via random transmission. He was a scientist while a plague ravaged Mars, and in a desperate attempt to save himself, he used Peter Parker's body to try and make a cure, only to cause horrible mutations in himself, and he now needs to wear an external armor, and is the last son of Mars, making him a bit of a darker version of Charlie, Nixie, and pretty much every other Guardian of the Galaxy member, since they're the last of their kind as well. But wasn't he supposed to be a clone of Charlie? Because that's why Charlie was... This was like literally... What the hell? To steal a joke from Silver Quill, continuity! But that transmission was just to keep the Guardians standing still so the base could explode. And we also get Ripjack flying over to another planet, and we see how he kills planets. Of course, the Guardians weren't exploded on Mars. They have about 6 issues left in their solo series. Vance beamed them back to the Icarus just in time. Everyone scrambles to get Ripjack's trail, and Vance gets a holo call from Martinex, who's questioning what Vance has been doing. I know I really haven't brought it up, but during this time, the Galactic Guardians, led by Martinex, have had a 4-part miniseries all their own, but it really doesn't have anything big in it, so just so you know, it's a thing. Either way, Vance talks Martinex into helping stonewall the many illegal things they just did. Then there's some more pissing contests between Talon and Vance, Yondu saves Alita spiritually from her loss of inner light, and just a lot of character stuff that was a long time coming before they find Ripjack. Actually, while they hunt him, we get shots of Ripjack in his ship, revealing what his true objective is, but it is still hidden from the main heroes, so we'll find that out in a little bit. But the Guardians do eventually find him, and they beam down planetside, and we get a fight where Ripjack just walks right through them. But in that time, the planet's population have died in agonizing pain, making the Guardians feel really guilty by the end of this issue. We learn about the truth in the next issue, and see, even the cover says we will. Who is causing the plague? Bubonicus. Hey, remember him in that one-off Galactic Guardian story in number 35, I believe? Don't worry, neither do I. But yeah, so he's the real baddie, and Ripjack has just been mercy-killing planets that he's infected. I guess it's kind of neat. So now Ripjack and the Guardian of the Galaxy have a truce while they figure out how to beat Bubonicus. they know they will not be enough to stop him. And randomly, the High Evolutionary pops in, saying he's gonna go help. Hey, remember when he was in it before? Wow, they're really pulling all the big names for this finale. However, with all the animosity snaking through the team, Vance goes off alone with Ripjack and the High Evolutionary to Sanctuary, a planet of people there trying to atone in monk-like living. Ripjack and Major Victory kick Bubonicus's butt, though Vance and Ripjack argue about executing Bubonicus before Bubonicus knocks Vance out. When he wakes up, the High Evolutionary has cured the population, but Ripjack and Bubonicus have left Sanctuary, and the High Evolutionary follows, leaving Vance in the lurch. Vance eventually gets back to the Icarus, but the Guardians aren't there. There's a recording of the vote against Vance Astro's position as leader. They've all taken a sabbatical to suss out their thoughts for their first free election for the new team leader. All except Yondu voted in favor of this election. However, Vance isn't alone on the Icarus, as Alita is still there, and they have a mushy romantic moment since way back in like issue 15, if the annotation box is right. Vance asked Alita to marry him, and apparently they're still engaged regardless of literally everything that's happened since then. I've had an ex-girlfriend who may find that loophole useful. Meanwhile, Stakar has been flying around for the last few issues, trying to figure out who his true parents are. Meeting up with Hollywood and they fight. Stakar gives Hollywood info on Dr. Doom being in his dome, and Hollywood tells him to go find the Silver Surfer, or the Keeper, whatever you want to call him. And Stakar does find him, just near death from a fight with Galactus, who has forsaken his contract. Yet, Stakar really only cares about his quest for parentage and tries to put on the quantum bands. Eon poofs onto the scene and tries to revert Stakar back into a child, but Stakar, through sheer willpower and, well, power, will not go back to a child form ever again. It was all a test. And now Stakar is the bearer of the quantum bands that belong to his biological father, Quasar. It's neat, but ultimately boils down to cosmic blasts, Quasar's history, and Stakar trying to reach his father's graveside. Over with the main Guardians on their sabbatical, Charlie and Nikki are now in an official relationship, or at least heavily friends with benefits, as they get a rumor of Jovian slaves, people from Jupiter, Charlie 27's people. So they're gonna go and investigate. Yellowjacket decides to try and go back to the 20th century, and Talon tries to get the Eye of Agamotto back from Krugar, but it becomes Talon fighting his own new primal nature. And that leads us to the final issue of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, number 62, Endgame. Stakar finds his mother, who is Kismet, which is hilarious since when she last popped up in here, she was her, and trying to resurrect Adam Warlock, who I actually thought would be Stakar's father. Stakar then has to fight Ira, the son of Eon, alongside his mother. And they win, and we have Kismet as a new hero active in the 31st century. However, the main bulk of the double-sized finale follows us back with the main Guardians, who have suspended their vote to go back in time to fight the Martians to save the Earth, and they do. But Wormhole, the guy who get 3 panels many issues ago, that just comes out of nowhere to send them through a mystery wormhole, and the Guardians crash on a planet. They all survive, but that's the end of the main series, with a hell of a cliffhanger. And originally I was going to leave this here, since this is the end of their official solo, and they make a brief appearance in things like New Warriors number 68 or Avengers Forever, but there is one more important milestone for this team that has to be talked about. In 2008, Andy Lanning and Dan Abnett spearheaded a new Guardian of the Galaxy team, folding out of the Marvel cosmic event Annihilation and the sequel Annihilation Conquest. And praise the sun, it was good, like really good. Bestseller good. Hence why it became a box office hit when it became the Guardian of the Galaxy, even if the DNA run has very little to do with the Bendis version that made it to film. But I digress. So, in their ongoing, at the very end of issue 1, a mysterious figure holding a Captain America shield is seen in ice. Yep, Vance Astro is floating around on a big block of time ice. It's limbo, but icy, to make it simple. I don't know. He does eventually get de-thawed, but this moment is that fundamental moment like the Avengers finding Cap. However, Vance doesn't remember anything, so this is going to be a slow build, and believe me, it is. Basically, this actually comes down to the same sort of thing that I would easily glance over during my giant rambles about the first Guardian of the Galaxy series, where it's a few pages per issue going just, hey, here's a bit of this story. In short, and by that I mean through several issues, Starhawk appears in a snazzy new outfit, he and Vance fight, though he doesn't know why, Starhawk poofs away, Vance gets somewhat situated to nowhere, the Celestial Skull city that the Guardians call home, before a new Starhawk shows up, this time a woman. Assumably, this is the 616 version of Alita, who's there to kill Vance, since he's an anomaly. But the Guardians get the jump on her to end that. That plot gets a bit buried under everyone else fighting, and issue 6 ends with the chick version of Starhawk arrested while the Guardians seem to have split up. Issue 7 is where they reveal the very loose origin story of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, though it brings up the Badoon using a zombie brigade for it, so take that as it is. But then again, Starhawk is the one telling the story, and it always ends with them failing for some reason. So that's why Starhawk keeps coming back to the present to try and correct everything. With the present Guardians, though I don't think they take the name officially until the end of this whole series, Vance runs into a zombie brigade. Fun fact, we also learned that the Badoon in the 616 are a third-class alien race who aren't even a blip on the cosmic radar. Of course, that's not true, as a Badoon, whatever the hell's moving castle that is, drops into the field of combat. But after the Guardians busted up, the Badoon politely shrug and remove their war factory from the planet. Yet this plot actually gets interrupted from them needing to save Star-Lord from the negative zone, and the whole War of Kings thing, where the Kree and the Shi'ar go to war. So it isn't until Guardians of the Galaxy number 16 that the storyline really comes to a head, when the present Guardians of the Galaxy poof into Avengers Mansion in 3009. And yes, I'll probably complain a little about the timeline and the final thoughts, but bear with me for now. Either way, they are then attacked by the original Guardians of the Galaxy, looking a lot less good looking? Sorry Craig, but I just can't get behind that art. I swear that's my last introduction to critique. But they aren't technically at Avengers Mansion. Well, they are, but they're not on Earth. Starhawk brought the Star-Lord team to the future tense to show what she is trying to correct in 2009. And she also reveals that she knows the error, the Inhumans. Does this count as a gripe if I take my usual potshot at the Inhumans now? No, that'd be unfair. This was when the Inhumans were actually an interesting facet of the Marvel Universe that I didn't wince hearing them involved in. However, before Starhawk can take the now Guardians back to the then, they get attacked by the Badoon. Starhawk sends everyone to the ship while she dives headfirst into battle. So now they have to go get the last cosmic cube from the heart of a celestial Dyson sphere, but that becomes something all on its own, as the issue ends with all the Guardians, old and new, dying. Okay, technically they don't die, but it's a hell of a cliffhanger that skips the next issue to continue in issue number 18, sort of. See, we begin with Charlie, Nixie, Hollywood, and a more classic-looking Starhawk fighting alongside Killraven, which means that this is all about the Martian invasion. And that's when the Star-Lord Guardians teleport in, although their ages are now very different, with everyone looking younger while Star-Lord himself is aged up, but they shake hands with Killraven's Guardians of the Galaxy. I swear I'm not going to be annoyed. They basically just help get the Martians on the ropes, but then get sucked back into the fault before they can finish the job. They hop through different universes until coming back to the Adam Magus War of Kings storyline that it's really shaking the Marvel Universe as it is. But sadly, the original Guardians team's story basically ends here. Vance does participate a little bit more, but he gets his stasis suit broken. He gets better to be a prisoner and on Phyla Vel's team when she decides to save the universe. He actually is a major player facing off and stopping the Matriarch, and he's even on the front line when Thanos comes out of his resurrection cocoon thing. Sweet. But it is here in the Guardians of the Galaxy number 25 that we see the importance of the handing of the torch. Starhawks of every iteration meet to discuss the error that continues to persist in the 21st century. They give Peter Quill and his Guardians of the Galaxy the mantle of the very first 1,000 years before the one that we started this video on, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, I was a bit long-winded in the wrap-up since ultimately the original team was only secondary characters at best in the DNA run of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I'm trying to be somewhat thorough. Vance does continue with this Guardian team for a bit longer, but that's where we are going to end the main summary of the 1969 team. And no, I'm not going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 3000. I'm annoyed at that still. And while we are technically done with the reader's history, the finale video where I talk about my final thoughts and general discussions on the original Guardians will be up next week. I'll even talk about what I think the future of the team should have been before it got cancelled. And yes, it definitely involves the fact that there was supposed to be a 31st century Venom storyline. I know it. So that is where I am ending for today. You can come back next week or you don't have to. But if you agree, disagree, or felt that I left out something in this super binge, or just wanted to say your piece on the characters, let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, let me know what you'd like to see for the next Reader's History, and check out our last Reader's History on Catwoman. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and please consider pledging to our Patreon. Trust me, it takes a lot of money and effort to do this, but even just liking, sharing, and subscribing can get us the help we need. And as always, I'm the Comic Archivist, and stay golden, Inklings.